Very interesting take. I've seen quite a few people confused as to why Firefly is getting a Novaflare as she is performing really well in the endgame. So here's a thread explaining Firefly's dysfunctional kit and how it came to be. Oh, it's Sarah? I see. The fastest way to paint a picture is to point out that Firefly is the only character to have a complete overhaul in their kit during the beta test. She went from a crit break hybrid DPS to a fully break DPS, and this wouldn't have been a problem if not for the fact that the way she played didn't change. The essence of Firefly's kit is to get immediately in the enhanced state and take as many turns as possible before a timer runs out. To execute this, Firefly gives out a lot of speed and also an enhanced blast attack. That is very similar to another character like Aglaia. She also wants to be speedy, take many turns and have a blast attack. The big difference is that Aglaia has the option to refresh the timer, whereas Firefly is locked out of this option and has to wait for the time to run out. Another big difference is the damage window. Okay, wait. This is fair, right? This is a fair point to make. Where Firefly is locked out, you have to wait for it to... You have a downtime, essentially, right? But they already fixed this. There's this unit called Dahlia. You have 100% ultimate uptime if you have Dahlia. So they already fixed it. Alright, moving on. Another big difference is their damage windows. By the nature of being a crit DPS, Aglaia will always be able to deal damage and sustain it permanently with the right support. This is however not the case for Firefly. She has a limited damage window of which half of it gets spent on bringing the break enemy. Firefly can't deal damage without breaking the enemy, and that's normal. But compared to other break DPS, Firefly gains nothing from breaking the enemy out and being... Okay, this is also fair, right? She has a limited window to deal damage to the enemy. This is also fair, right? She can't deal damage without breaking, but they also fixed this. There's this unit called a Dahlia. Alright, fantastic. Let's move on. Example, Boothill can delay the enemy with his ultimate and gain trick shot by bringing them. Rabba increases super rate multiplier up to 10, blah blah blah. But Firefly has nothing to do in the kit by reward breaking the enemy because she wasn't supposed to. She was supposed to be a hybrid DPS like Xueyi. Her damage window was designed to be up the moment she went in her state. This is also the reason why Dahlia allows for her DPS to be dealt without breaking. It is intended way for Firefly to perform her original rotation. Anyway, one of the gifts of Instant Firefly is quite frankly half done kit. I don't expect major changes seeing as Dahlia solves nearly all of that now, which is a shame. Would have been cooler for Firefly to compensate for her own shortcomings without being dependent on others. But hey, the Dahlia allowing anyone to be a function and good break DPS is also fun, though it's not bad. My expectation is that they will add Fireflies out from CW and increase the innate super rate multipliers, and even a way to stay in the state, I don't know, we'll see. Adding this way here because too many people misinterpret my tweet. Also, in the nicest way possible, improve your reading comprehension. I explained my verse and what the thread is about. Try my hardest to make it as clear as possible. So what is this? This isn't a response as to why isn't blah 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 buff first. This is a trait made so Firefly already performs what is there to buff. For example, Blair has once buff removed the card in the kit and didn't see any increased multipliers, so I expand off like, okay, like, I understand bro's point of view. Right? It is like the inherent flaw within a unit's kit, right? It is a fair point to bring up. Whether or not Dahlia changes that, it's fair, right? She has her own weaknesses. But this exact same point, you can apply it to almost every single DPS. Not even almost, straight up every single DPS. There's not a single DPS in Honkai Star Rail that has no flaws, right? Because this is a team-building turn-based game. If there's gonna be a DPS that can just stand up on their own without anyone else, I'll be playing a game called Watering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, or whatever kind of solo RPG where you can literally solo the dungeon, right? Billy solo, right? Dungeon solo. Hazard ain't about that, right? Hazard is about team building. And every single time you have a DPS coming out, they are meant to be played in a team. So, why does Dahlia, or rather, why does Firefly have a buff? I don't think it is fair to just say that she has clunkiness in her kit. Therefore, here's why she's getting buffed. Because you laid out all of the clunkiness, right? Unable to refresh her ultimate, unable to deal damage before breaking, and half of the time during ultimate, she is spent breaking Talus bar instead of doing damage. It's fair. But the thing is, they already fixed it with Dahlia, right? I know that the author also addresses that they already fixed it with Dahlia, but there are so many other units in HSR, in version 2, in version 1, that has way bigger problems than Firefly. The way I see, right, is like, this is the equivalent of somebody, an analogy, right? An analogy is like, if someone is from a middle class income, all right, you are living a okay-ish, like you're middle class, right? But you are complaining, oh shit, I should deserve the extra $100 a week food stamps because my grocery bills are very high and I have to take Grab all over the place and it's very expensive. When there are like poor, lower income families out there that could use it way more, right? Sure, if you're a middle class citizen, you have your own problems, right? No one is disregarding that middle class citizens also have problems, right? Everyone in the world has their problems, right? But there are people that needs the help way more, all right? Look at my man Argenti, bro. I fucking hate Argenti. I don't even know who the hell plays Argenti. Look at my man Akron, right? Like, these are tangible proof that they deserve a Novaflare, or rather they need a Novaflare more than a unit that is a literally... Where the fuck is the damn thing? Yeah, they need the Novaflare way more than someone that is literally in the top 3. All right? If you want to go down this route where, okay, we are going to buff Castoris next year, right? Let's just fucking buff Castoris, right? Because Castoris also has its own problems, right? People are zero cycling with Avenite without Castoris. People are running E2 S1 Avenite instead of using Castoris. Castoris new budget, like, she also has her own problems, right? She needs a sustain, right? Imagine trying to run Castoris without a sustain. So because of all those reasons, I'm now gonna make Castoris a sustainless DPS. She can self-heal without Hyacinth. And then you can kill Hyacinth in-game and then just run a sustainless Castoris, Avenite, Cyrene Teep, and she'll deal way more damage, right? You could say that. Because technically, strictly speaking, cost for cost, you are going to be clearing slightly slower if you are going to be running Castoris with a sustain compared to Avenite without a sustain, right? Cost for cost. But if you go down this route of like, this unit is clunky, therefore, they deserve a buff, you are ignoring everyone else here. Which I think is... it doesn't fix what Novaflare is trying to do, which is to balance out the extremely fast-paced changes in Honkai Star Rail's meta, right? Like, the purpose of Novaflare is to make it such that your discrepancy between your worst performing units, they're going to be a little bit closer to the best performing units, right? It is not to say that, like, for example, all right, look at it, right? Jing Liu just got a Novaflare, and she's already cooked. All right. Blade also just got a Novaflare. I guess Blade's not that cooked. Wait, where's Blade? Oh, Blade's also cooked. Right, like, there are also units that get Novaflares, but their performance is still, like, struggling by quite a bit. And there are all these other units like Ying Li, Acheron. Facial is fine. I mean, Facial is not fine because I also want to get a buff. But, like, these units could make use of that Novaflare slot better than Firefly, who is already doing top 3. All right, so it is not so much as to, okay, the post is, at the end of the day, it is not a good or bad post. It is explaining why Firefly, right? As to why Firefly is getting a Novaflare. Half of the reasons are from the post here, right? Which is the clunkiness in Bro's kit, because she wasn't designed to be fully break, right? She was designed to be a Xue Yi, so like, she wasn't dealing damage during half the time in the ultimate state. That's fair. But the other half of the reason why I think Firefly got a Novaflare, right? The question, the topic today is why Firefly is getting a Novaflare, right? Half the reason is the other half, personally speaking, right? Personally speaking, personally fucking speaking, she's the girlfriend. She's a girlfriend. And I don't even mean this as like a joke. She is one of the most popular used DPS ever since version 2. Ever since even version 3, the second most popular team, it is pretty much Super Big Firefly, right? And there's a reason why they buff a DPS that almost everyone in moms use, because everybody loves Firefly, right? You love her girlfriend experience, you love using her, everybody has her, almost half of the Firefly mains already has her E2, so like, it is a very straightforward move that they want to appease to the majority of player base in HSR who own this set DPS and they cannot afford to all of a sudden pivot out into another DPS that they don't play, right? Like, even if you take a look at it, right? Echo is cooked, bro. Right? She is cooked, right? And she is, or rather, she was the version 2 anniversary unit, right? She was the anniversary. But just because she was the anniversary unit doesn't mean that she's all of a sudden going to be future-proof, right? A DPS is future-proof, right? There's no such thing, right? There's no. But Firefly over here, because so many people like using her, right? It's not just because of the girlfriend factor, where it's like in the lore, in the story, right? She sacrificed herself, the $10,000. It is also because she's easy to play. She is, right? She's relatively easy. Okay, I'm not saying Firefly mains have 0 IQ and they just press one button to play. I'm not saying that, but relatively speaking, it is more straightforward to play. All right, it is more straightforward to play, right? Especially if you want to just go ahead, right? Get yourself a couple of, like, I don't know, your E2 Fireflies, right? Get yourself either a run mate, right? The moment you get your pieces together, it functions very similarly to the Remembrance flagship, right? You press, you could min-max, right? You could time your Evernight Jellyfish, you could time your Caster's Dragon. Do you want 100% Caster's or 200% Caster's? When do you cast your highest? You could min-max, just like how you could also min-max Firefly, but it is more accessible. All right, you had, way back then, you had the free unit of HMC, you had the free 4-star sustain Gallagher, and all you needed back then was a runway. That's it. So it was super easy to get into the Firefly flagship, and then they have the upgrade for Fuke, and they have the upgrade for Dahlia, and now it's like, you want to run sustainless? Sure, you want to run either HMC or runway, right? If you want to run with a sustain, you either run Ninja or run Gallagher, but then it's like a toss-up, right? So I think that is the main reason why Firefly is getting a Novaflare. And notice how out of these two reasons, there's one that is never the reason. And that's the performance. Why Firefly is getting a Novaflare, it will never be because she's performing poorly. And I think the objective of a Novaflare is to make a unit's performance come up because they were performing poorly, right? Okay, like for example, you could say Hue is technically not really performing poorly, but if anyone tried using Hue E0, you will know how hard it is to sustain with her, right? And I'm not even like joking anymore. It is genuinely more difficult to sustain Hue because she can't prevent one-shot scenarios as an abundant sustain, right? So for these reasons, I hope that Novaflares going forward should still prioritize on improving a character that is like not performing too good, instead of why her kit has flaws and why they are popular, right? Like, can you imagine if Novaflare just ends up being, oh, we are just gonna take the top 20%, or rather the top 3, top 5 average usage rate to see who are using these characters the most frequent. And then we'll just buff all of the most popular characters, and then anyone else with like sub 5% usage, they will never ever get buffed ever again because nobody uses them ever again, right? And I think that would like go against the purpose of Novaflare, because popular units will just keep getting more and more stronger, right? There will be no incentive to ever pull for alternate units. Like for example, who the fuck will pull for Asheville? Right? If you're just gonna be focusing on like the re-up characters, right? If you're just gonna be focusing on the flagship, right? Elation flagship, Remembrance flagship, Firefly flagship, you only focus on units that are already popular, which they already are for a reason, by the way. Then all other units in HSR will never get a chance to try and match up, which I think is not an unhealthy way of balancing meta, because statistically, if you want to think about it, it makes more sense to make popular units stronger, because it will impact more players, right? It makes more sense. If everyone in Mount uses Firefly, and Firefly is, you know, weaker than Remembrance flagship, and you only play Firefly or Remembrance flagship, then it makes sense, right? It will make the meta healthier. But do you really want to play a game where like you only play like 2 teams, or like 3 teams, or like just one single team per version, and all other DPS, all other supports, they are irrelevant? Like, can you imagine if you're a final main? And if you're a final main, okay, I think final is like a very good example right here, by the way. Firefly Acheron is like Caster's final. So can you imagine 1 year down the road, they buff Caster's first before final? It might be better for the popular, right? For the popular opinion, for the general community, because more players are using casters, right? It's 50% to 25%, right? But it will also make it like way more restrictive, because the narrative that I see right here is if you don't pull for a popular unit or like the lore unit or like the girlfriend unit, then there is a higher likelihood that you'll get left behind, simply because the devs want to make the popular unit stand out more, right? So that is going to be my 2 cents. And what started out as I think this is a pretty interesting topic, right? No hate, it is just a way that we look at Novaflare as a whole. So let me know what you guys are thinking below. I have no, hey, this was not scripted, by the way. This is purely off the top of Mr. HSR's ingenious brain. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Word of the day is gonna be, what is the purpose of Novaflare, right? What truly is the purpose of Nova? Is Novaflare meant to make HSR's damage roster, like DPS roster, more variety, right? More options for the players to choose? Or is Novaflare just a way to have a popularity contest where the most popular units gets a buff? Alright. Okay, so see you guys on the main channel. Use code BOY for 10%. Blah, 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 blah. Alright, thank you.